There is a big ball of fire in the sky, young Jedi, but don't be deceived. Let's dive into it, shall we? Oh, that's bright.
Welcome to Rolling with T-Bone presents The Cryptids of North America. I hope you enjoy.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Cryptids of North America. T-Bone, 2 back-to-back episodes of Cryptids of North America. What's going on? Well, what's going on is it's wintertime in the South. And if you are new here and you just found this channel is called Rolling with T-Bone. So we're in my truck. So technically we're still rolling. But anyway, I'm going to start out right quick. I want to give a couple of shout outs. I want to give a shout out to the Salty Badger. If you guys aren't subscribed to Salty Badger's channel and checking him out, what a great dude. You know, he does a show every day, a live show called Live at 5. And he talks about all of the motorcycle stuff going on, news. He talks about all of the, like, super shows going on, swap meets, bike shows, all that cool stuff. And he does channel shout outs, and he shouts out all of us small time YouTubers and tries to get eyes on our channel for us. So if you're not subscribed to the Salty Badger channel, go check Salty out. He's a very cool guy. Awesome dude. Salty, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate all you've done for me. I appreciate you shouting me out all the time, and I appreciate you shouting us out at the rabbit hole. Me and John's working. We're growing on the rabbit hole. It is growing. So I appreciate all that shouting out. Next shout out I want to give is to a channel called It's My Time, Let's Go. Ralph up in the Great White North. He's building a chopper that he's calling Margaret. I suggest you go back to the very first episode of that if you haven't watched it, and watch the complete series of everything he's done up to now. The channel's called It's My Time, Let's Go, and Ralph, tell him T-Bone sent you. All right, so now to the meat and potatoes of today's episode. Y'all see the thumbnail, so you know why you're here. Today we are going to be talking about the lizard man of South Carolina. Guys, this is one of those cryptids that cryptids are cryptids. You got Bigfoot, and then you got Wolfman, you got the Rake. The lizard man is on the other side of the spectrum from even them. He is the cryptid of the cryptids world, if that makes sense. The year was 1988. Hair metal was still going strong. Guns N' Roses was climbing up the charts. Country music was experiencing a big change with incoming acts like Randy Travis. Alabama was rocking the world. And in a small town in South Carolina, a county called Lee County, at a place called the Scape Ore Swamp, something big was about to happen. All right, guys, so 1988, a young man, 17-year-old, I think he was, a young man named Christopher Davis, was on his way home from work. He worked the evening shift, night shift, kind of. And it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And of course, as it will happen on these southern back roads, you get a flat tire. And Chris pulled over. He was in the Scape Ore Swamp area, in a place called Browntown. And he was changing his tire. And he said that he could hear something behind him in the woods. He could hear like brush breaking. He could hear leaves rustling. So he kind of sped up his pace. He got his tire on, And as he was putting everything in his trunk, he turned around and looked behind him. And that's when he said he saw the lizard man. So the account that Chris gave was that it was a 7-foot tall lizard standing bipedal on 2 legs, shaped like a man, covered in green scales, with red glowing eyes. Now, Chris's account from there was that he jumped in his car, sped off, and the lizard man started chasing him. And apparently the lizard man could move pretty fast, because Christopher then said that the lizard man jumped up on his car, and Christopher said the only thing he could think of was to get it off, was to slam on the brakes. The lizard man rolled off the car, threw him off of the car. Chris smashed the gas and got away. Went home, woke his dad up, told his dad what had happened. Now, here's where the story takes the turn that some people wasn't expecting it to take. There is a sheriff in this town who is a professional lawman. He's been trained in FBI, trained in all kinds of different types of law enforcement, and he is known as a very reputable, at that point he was known as a very reputable sheriff. Now, the way I understand it, the way I've heard the story and read it a couple of different times, is that Christopher and his dad decided to get a hold of Sheriff Liston Truesdale, I believe that was his name, and they told Sheriff Truesdale that Christopher's car was attacked, what attacked it, and of course Sheriff Truesdale, being a lawman, decided that he wasn't sure. In his interview, you can find their interviews on YouTube, he said he didn't feel like Chris was lying to him, but of course he wanted him to take a lie detector test. Now here's the thing, guys. 17-year-old scared to death Christopher Davis took the lie detector test and passed it. He was not lying. They administered a couple of different polygraph tests, and he passed both of them with flying colors, that he was attacked. Now, the one question that was asked point blank, was you attacked by a giant lizard man? Christopher answered yes, and the lie detector said he was telling the truth. So, this begins the legend of the Lizard Man of South Carolina. Now, 1988, although there are other sightings, 1988, this year, this time frame, seems to be the time of the Lizard Man. If he had a golden age, 1988 was it. Subsequent days would go by. Phone would ring. It would be another report of seeing the Lizard Man. People were seeing him on the roads. He was coming up into people's yards. He was attacking people's houses. So, the Lizard Man, unlike a lot of other cryptids on my channel, or that we can read about, he doesn't have a definitive backstory, meaning like the Fouke monster of last episode. And a lot of these other cryptids that I study, they have a back history. Native American folklore. Sometimes you can even date them to when they first appeared. As far as I can tell in my research, as far as the written reports go, 1988 was in fact the very first appearance of the Lizard Man. So, you know, I've heard people say that Christopher, if he saw a man dressed up as a giant lizard and he believed that the costume was real, then he would have passed the polygraph test. And I agree with that 100%. In that vein, just in that vein, let's just stay in that vein for a minute. Let's run that thread out. You would have to have 1988. You would have to have some kind of Hollywood animatronic stuff going on to be able to make that kind of suit. Kind of like what they say about the Patterson Gimlin film of Patty the Bigfoot from 1967. If it was a gorilla suit, and the same thing if it was a lizard suit with the Lizard Man in 1988, you would have to have some Hollywood special effects. And I'm not sure in Lee County, South Carolina, a town of about, at the time, I think they said 3,500. I doubt very seriously you're going to have many Hollywood special effects people running around in Lee County, South Carolina in 1988. Okay, so then let's just stop right there. And let's just talk about the facts we know about lizards. I think that would be the best thing to do right now. Because if you're kind of like me, it kind of freaks you out a little bit about a lizard man running at you. But is it so weird for a lizard to be able to run? Well, you got to first think about the size of the lizard. Now, we know lizards, alligators, crocodiles are part of the lizard world. Iguanas, Komodo dragons. These lizards can become 7-8 foot long. The Komodo dragon, I believe, is the largest lizard in the world, and it gets up to 8-9 foot long. Of course, we know some alligators can get 12-13 foot long. So, knowing that, then we have to think about the lizard being able to rise up on its rear legs and run. Well, the bearded dragons that live in the desert can do that. The hooded dragon, bearded dragon, whatever you want to call them. They're little 6-7 inch tall lizards, but they can rise up on their legs and run across sand. So it is physically, biologically possible for a lizard to be 7 foot tall if you was able to stand it up. It is possible for a lizard to be able to rise up on its hind legs and run. So then you have to marry all of that together under the ideal of a lizard being able to walk like a man. They can. You have to look at the 7 foot tall lizard man, and you have to believe in the ideal that a lizard can be that long. They can. Now, looking at what is biologically possible that a lizard can do. And again, I want to go ahead and make this disclaimer right here. I put it in all these videos. I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm not here to try to make you believe anything, try to make you, second guess your own self about anything. I'm just presenting what if. So, under all of that, the umbrella of all that can happen, then you change the conversation again when you say, is it completely out of the realm of possibility for a lizard to be able to do these things? Well, then no, it's not. So Christopher Davis, the young man who passed the lie detector test, who made a very well-trained police officer, Sheriff Truesdale, believe him. You have to wonder then, knowing what I just said a second ago about having Hollywood graphics, special effects. A suit, for it to scare a guy, for a suit to scare anyone, it has to look real. So if it played the devil's advocate, what my partner John over on the Rabbit Hole does, he'll play devil's advocate. Say it was a man in a suit. Say this man had figured out how to make a convincing lizard man costume. Would you then say that isn't scary if it's a guy in a suit? I would say it's just as scary if a guy decides that he's going to put on a lizard costume, hang out in a swamp, and chase people down the road. That would be, to me, even scarier than it actually being a real lizard man who would have a reason to do that, hunger or whatever. So you put all those facts together, what is biologically possible, what we know to be true about lizards, and then you think about the eyes. He said the eyes glowed red. Now, we do know that alligators, crocodiles, at night have a strange eye shine when they're in the water. So then is it, if you hit their eyes with the light, they do flash red. So all of the boxes for the lizard man that need to be checked, to me, are checked. It is possible for him to get that tall. It is possible for them to be able to get up on two legs. It is possible for them to be aggressive. So then it puts it, if you look at the facts that you know about lizards, take the cryptid out of it, meaning broad shoulders like a man, whatnot, whatever. Take that out of it. And take the facts of what we know about the lizards, like all the stuff I just mentioned. It makes a pretty compelling case. You have to admit it. It does make a pretty compelling case. Now, he's not just been reported there at Scape Ore Swamp either. He's also been sighted in Sumter County, Kershaw. So he's got a pretty good size area that he covered there. Now, one other incident that happened made national news. Actually, all of it made national news. But there was a lady named Dixie Rawson, and this, of course, again happened in 1988. Dixie had got up one morning to go to town. She had a Chrysler minivan, Dodge, and when she went out to her van, it looked like something had been chewing on it. The fenders were all chewed up and bent out. The hood was all chewed up and bent. There was deep cuts in it from claws. Now, of course, she attributed it to the lizard man. There have been people who have spent more time trying to discredit that one. They've taken machines. I know I watched one thing where some guys had taken a metal, kind of like the jaws of life that the fire department use, and they had built a set of jaws, like lizard jaws or canine jaws. And the force that it would take to chew up a fender, to bust through all of the inner plastics and everything, was, it had to have the bite force of around, 1,000-pound bite force or more. So then, when you take that into account, and you think about the lizard man having that kind of bite force, that's pretty astonishing. But then you have to ask yourself another question. Why would the lizard man attack a parked car? What would be the purpose? What would be the reason behind, seemingly a innocent automobile being attacked? Well, the sheriff couldn't figure that out. Of course, he came out. He was called. A lot of people came out and done research on it. They checked the car over, looked at everything. So you can find all of this, guys, on YouTube. I'm just kind of giving you the high points like I normally do, but I have looked at this story for a while now. This one could have actually been part. I've been looking at the Lizard Man for so long. He could have actually been part of the original series that started all this back in October. But I've looked at this story from every different angle. I've listened to different versions of it. I've looked at all of the interviews. Christopher Davis did an interview. Liston Truesdale, the sheriff, was like a movie star. He was everywhere. He was on television. He was in newspapers. He was in magazines. So there was a little bit of fame attached to it. But Christopher Davis never wanted the fame. Dixie Rawson never wanted the fame. So that's why I said what I said earlier about Truesdale being a accredited lawman. He kind of got on the Hollywood bandwagon there, if you will. And you know, could we blame him? Could we say, nah, we wouldn't do that? Could we say that? I mean, you know, you're getting all this publicity and people are interested in talking to you and they really want to talk to you. I mean, me, it's kind of hokey. I wouldn't do it, but you know, who wouldn't do it? I mean, would you turn that 15 minutes of fame down? Especially when you're dealing with something that's called the Lizard Man. You know, who would turn that down? I don't know. That's so, in closing with the Lizard Man, I will say this about the Lizard Man. Again, this is just T-Bone's point of view. Again, I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. I think it's feasible. I really do. And I'll tell you why, because we know facts about lizards. Again, running over. They can rise up on their hind legs. They can run. They do get that tall. They do get that big. And an alligator will attack whatever. So I think it's feasible. I think Christopher Davis had a very scary experience for a young man of 16 years, 17-year-old young man to have. Sorry, not 16, but 17. I think that he handled it very gracefully. You know, he just got away from it. He gave his report and he kind of stepped back away from it and didn't want to be in the limelight. So, as a cryptid, I can say that this would fit into the category of a cryptid. It is an unknown species of animal. Even though he's called Lizard Man, if he is a special kind of species, then he's still undocumented, and that puts him squarely within the realms of cryptid. It's very interesting. It's very interesting because there are other reports, but I want you guys to go check these out for yourself and watch these videos. He showed up later on at another time, but there was a lot of controversy about whether it was actually the original Lizard Man or not. But yeah, I mean, devil's advocate, could have been a guy in a suit, sure. I mean, it absolutely could have been a guy in a suit. Although, why? I mean, you know, Christopher Davis was telling the truth. He passed 2 polygraph tests, so he wasn't in on the joke. And if it was a joke that, you know, somebody played on these people in, you know, Lee County, you know, Skateboard Swamp, around town, if this was a hoax that someone was pulling on these people, it was a very convincing hoax. I think that Christopher Davis, if it was a hoax, Christopher Davis, I think that one was very cruel. I think if it was a hoax, I think that was a very cruel hoax. You know, scaring a young man like that, just because. I mean, it may seem funny, and of course I am looking at this story through adult eyes. If it was a hoax, which I don't think it was a hoax. There's too many biological things we know about lizards for me to just jump into the realm of this is a hoax. But if it was a hoax, I mean, in the overall, you have to say it was very well done as a hoax. It hit every mark that it needed to hit. It got attention. It got international attention. It was scary. People were panicking. And it started a kind of a hysteria because subsequent, there was reportings like crazy coming in. At one time, Sheriff Truesdale's office reported that they were getting 200 phone calls a day from newspapers, from reporters, from people reporting lizardman sightings. So it checked every box that it needed to check. But this one was very interesting, guys. The lizardman of South Carolina was very interesting. Like I said, I have been sitting on this one for a while. I was going to do this one earlier in this series, but I kind of wanted to do all the research I could because, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain this the right way to make it not sound crazy, but outside of the Bigfoot, Wolfman, and I haven't even covered Wolfman really on here. I've talked about the Beast of Bray Road, but I haven't talked about Skinwalkers and Wolfman yet. We haven't even opened that can yet. We haven't opened the can of the rake yet. When it comes to the lizard man, like I said in the beginning of this episode, he's the cryptid that other cryptids look at and go, wow, because the lizard man is kind of a standalone entity. And now there are reports of lizard people that have came in from different places in the world and in this country. The concept of a lizard man is not new. But what gets me about this one here is it came from a small town. It came from a place that didn't have a lot of special effects and stuff like that. So I lean into Christopher Davis. Actually saw something that scared him to death. But y'all let me know down in the comments, what do y'all think? Give me just a second. I gotta stop, put a little go-go juice in the truck, and we'll finish up this episode. Y'all hang tight for just a minute. Alright guys, so the lizard man episode is in the bag. Guys, this is a very interesting cryptid, guys. You know, not just for being a 7-foot tall lizard. There's just a lot of elements to this story that I really enjoy because it checks all the boxes that a authentic sighting checks, and I really like that. Would I like to meet the lizard man in a dark alley? Absolutely not, because the description, if I did, running would probably be the second thing I would think about. Use your imagination, what would be the first thing? But yeah, guys, I'm hoping to be able soon to be able to get out and ride my motorcycle. If I do, I'll try to take you guys along with me. According to the cage, we have warmed up to 36 degrees. So we're creeping up on 40. And if it gets up to what they say it's going to get up to today, sorry. If it gets up to what they say it's going to get up to today, I might actually try to ride some this evening. But we won't know until then. But I do want to talk to you guys about a couple of things that's coming up. Of course, last night was the rabbit hole with the Ark of the Covenant. The rabbit hole's growing, guys. If you are not yet subscribed to the rabbit hole, and if you would like to be a part of our live show we do on Sunday nights at 7 o'clock, come over and hang out with us in the chats. I know that's during other people's premieres. I know usually Shade Tree Surgeon has something going on then. I know a lot of you guys are there for that, and that's cool. But we have fun. We have good conversation, good topic. Also, this coming Wednesday night, day after tomorrow, at 6:30 on the unaffiliated channel, I am going to be interviewed by J-Man, Shadow, and Dark Soul, I think. So if you want to see my interview, I'm going to try to link the unaffiliated here in the description or somewhere on this video. If we're in the premiere chat right now, the people Rick's in there, or Frogzilla, or Lolly, anybody who could come and drop down in the regular comments, link the unaffiliated for me if you don't care, because those guys are like sharpshooters when it comes to that. But yeah, man, I don't know what all we're going to talk about in that interview. I just told them we'll talk about everything, anything they want to talk about. Motorcycles, Bigfoot, I don't care. We'll talk about whatever they want to talk about. But it's kind of cool. I'm getting out there a little bit. You know, the Rabbit Hole show is taking off. We're getting a lot of good publicity from guys like Salty Badger and Shadow over on the unaffiliated channel. He's probably in the chat here with us. What's up, Shadow? But yeah, check out Wednesday night. They usually start around 6:30 or so. So I'm looking forward to that. I wanted to try to do it this past Wednesday, but I ended up in a meeting that didn't start till 5 o'clock, and by the time I got out of it, I got home. I arrived like nearly at the end of their show, so it didn't work out. But this Wednesday, the plan is to be there and to do an interview and have a good time with that. And keep in mind, guys, next week's Rabbit Hole is going to be an open rabbit hole, meaning we're going to have you guys come up on the screen with us and tell us your stories. I know Frogzilla's got a cryptid story. Lolly has got stories, cryptid stories. So John has put his email in the description on the Rabbit Hole channel. So if you email John that you want to come up, he will email you the link to be able to come on to the show with us next Sunday night at 7 o'clock. So keep that in mind. But guys, for now, I'm going to jump off here and finish up doing what I need to do. And till the next time, you guys take care of yourselves, take care of each other, stay warm, and hey, thanks for watching.